Welcome to the Coach's Four Quarters Radio Show. I'm your host, Coach Joseph Lee Jr. And today I have a great guest on, Gino Arcaro from Toronto, Canada. And this young man, I have been knowing him for a little while, but he has done some great things in football in that area. He's an inventor, a coach, and he's also a mentor to a lot of young people. Hello, Gino.
Coach Lee, thank you very much for that. Thank you for having me as a guest on your show. We've met several times, not in person, but I'm honored and I'm privileged to be on your show.
Oh, and I'm humbled. I'm humbled, young man. Well, let's get started. Gino, I have a couple of questions for you. My first question is, I want you to tell me about your unique SWAT no-huddle offense.
Coach, my SWAT no-huddle offense started, it's been an evolution. In 1984, I got promoted to my first head coach high school job. I was 26 years old.
Okay.
I took over a losing program where I was an assistant coach and I played. We never made the playoffs for decades, for years. My first year as head coach, 0-10, winless, awful. We were never competitive in one game, 0-10.
Okay.
That off season, Coach, was the beginning of my SWAT no huddle. What I did was I incorporated my own weight room philosophy, my strength and conditioning, plus I started speeding up the offense, and I started creating my own language based on the police language. I used to be a police officer between 1975 and 1990. And what I did was I kept speeding up the game. By 1991, I had created a unique language where we could create a limitless offense without any paper, without a playbook. And
very good.
The beauty of it is, Coach, is that it's a solution. It was a solution to my problem, and the problem that I have is actually a blessing. I coach the least. I coach basically poor teams. I've been blessed to be head coach of 3 high school teams, semi-pro team, a startup collegiate team. I coach unrecruited players. We'd never had a junior varsity. So we coach in what I call athletic poverty.
Oh, okay.
Not enough resources, kids that we start from scratch. And here's what we do. We believe in strength and conditioning and fitness, plus speeding up the game. And here's the other thing about the SWAT no huddle that makes it unique. I've been a ground and pound coach, and now I've been up in the air coach.
Okay.
It's whatever
what you need to do.
Whatever I need to do, I don't have to change the system. And what's happened, Coach, is so many players have been recruited from our system.
Wow. And that's how you turned around 3 losing high school programs, huh?
Yes, and it's been a blessing. I think there's no greater reward in coaching football than 2 things.
Wow.
Recruiting players, getting them to the next level, and turning around losing programs. Because, Coach, one of my real-life lessons that I teach all my players, and it has to do with my SWAT no huddle, I've told them over and over again, you're not second-class people. Just because you come from a losing program doesn't make you third-class people.
That's true.
And it's been a David versus Goliath battle, and my SWAT no huddle, I let go of the reins. I teach them. It's kind of like driving a car. I'm gonna drive the car for you, but when it's time for you to start driving the car, my quarterback calls his own plays, and it's an ideology. It's a system. There's nothing like it out there. Limitless system, no paper, and I teach it all in 2 days. It's installed.
And what kind of percentage? Not to cut you off. What kind of percentage did you have? I also know that you coached high school and semi-pro.
Yes, sir. My semi-pro record is 92%. I've been blessed. The semi-pro players that I've coached, it was a blessing. My high school record was 82%. And, Coach, here's what I believe about win-loss records. Your win-loss record really, truly has to do with how fit you get your players in the off-season, how fit you get them in mind, body, and soul, and it's a reflection on commitment. I call it 5th degree commitment of your players. that if you get your players to commit, it translates into one-loss record. And one of the things I've been blessed with, I'm a very demanding coach. We have very, very tough practices, very tough workouts, but they're reasonable. They're not out there, nobody's getting hurt. And the thing of it is there's a lot of work. It's an old-fashioned work ethic that I learned from my poor, illiterate, Italian immigrant parents. My father couldn't read or write. He came here post-World War II to escape hunger. He taught me work ethic, and I've been blessed with that. I've translated that into football, coach, and the one-loss record, 82% in high school, 92% in semi-pro, it's a reflection. It's a reflection on what can happen when players buy into the concept of working hard for each other, coach.
That's a wonderful lesson. And is that a lesson that you learned?
Coach, I learned that lesson when I was a child growing up in the 60s. Like I said, my father fought in World War II. He was a prisoner of war. They faced real hunger, came here to Canada. They did things I've never had to do. I've never had to move to another country. They came here, couldn't read, couldn't write, and they made it work. I worked in a factory. I worked in a factory, coach, where my father worked for 30 years, carrying 140-pound flour bags. I only did it for 4 years in high school. Much love and much respect to all manual laborers. Much love and much respect, because that formed, believe it or not, my whole ideology of strength training and my SWAT no huddle, my practices, my defense. Yes, of course, X's and O's matter. X's and O's matter, coach. But what I learned in factory work from people who every day got up and faced the grind, no excuses, no days off.
Anything. That's true.
That's what football's all about, coach.
That's right. And that was kind of my upbringing, too, because, my dad worked at General Motors, Fisher Body. And I think I did that all of 6 months. And I'm telling you, he did the same thing every day, day in and day out. Now, you know what, Coach? I'm excited because you've been at this for 40 years. So tell me, I want to know you when you got started and how you feel now, right about now, just like myself.
Okay, let me start off with the blessing, the good.
Okay.
Football coaching has energized me. And I got to repeat that. It's energized me. That's my reward. That when you go out to a football practice, and I work out with my players, I don't care if it's in the gym or on a practice field. I'm not going to talk about game day yet. But 40 years has energized me. It's energized me, meaning when I was in my prime, I never once felt tired. I felt I could go on all day. And yet I had jobs during the day. I've been blessed with a wife, 3 daughters. Football was a huge part of my life, but it really wasn't my whole life. And I never felt drained. Here's the bad news. My last 5 years, year 36 to year 40, I'm not going to lie, Coach. There's a societal shift. It's been harder to get players to buy into workout. It's been harder. And what I found is, and this is what I tell coaches, is that, maybe the cumulative effect of 40 years of coaching, maybe it's a shift in society. There's just a little bit of energy drain. The energy drain started happening.
Okay.
What I'm trying to tell coaches is this, and I believe this with all my heart. Whether you build a football team, offense, defense, sharing that energy is what football is all about. It's an energy sharing. If you get positive vibes and positive energy, I call it solar energy, SOULAR. It's a spiritual experience deep down in your soul where you can tap into spiritual energy. One of my players once said, Coach, I missed my workouts down in your basement, 1984 to 1988. He said it was a spiritual experience. And I thought, that's it.
Well,
that's
it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about for 40 years.
Yes.
But I just tell coaches today that there's so much heart and soul that I call it, you pour your whole heart. When you pour your whole heart in everything, you're human. True. You got to be careful about getting drained every once in a while.
That's true. That's true. Now, I see here that you've also done some defense. So speak to me on your defensive philosophy, a little of it anyway.
Oh, Coach, thanks for bringing that up. I have a SWAT defense. I'll try to summarize this.
Okay.
1992, I was coaching a summer team in Canada that was 18 to 22, post-secondary. It's called junior football. It's for people, it's like junior college. It's for people who don't go to university. So many players moved on to the CFL. Anyhow, my first year as defensive coordinator, I was 33 years old. So I was coaching in the summer, coaching in the fall as head coach. All of a sudden, coach, I had a team. I had 17 guys on defense. None of them deserved to sit on the bench. One player in particular, he could have played strong safety. He could have played inside linebacker, outside linebacker, defensive end. All of a sudden, I said, you know what? I'm going to call you the X-Man. I'm going to call you the X-Man. You're going to play every level. I invented my own language. Slowly but surely, I incorporated a platoon system that I got all 17 players involved. Not because I was afraid to pick the starters, but I said to myself, these guys are smart enough, and I challenged them intellectually. Second thing I did, Coach, I gradually started breaking away from the conventional terms of like linebacker, nose tackle. Eventually, I replaced them with words from the police language: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. So in other words, the X-Man. Who's the X-Man?
Yes.
You, if you're the X-Man, and here's what I've told all my X-Men since 1992, man, you are the guy on the defense. You're playing defense all over the place. If you got to play DB, you're playing DB because you're an athlete and you're smart enough. Here's what happened, Coach. They bought into it.
Right.
They bought into the language, and slowly the playbook disappeared. So in other words, now I call it postmodern football. Postmodern football, and now I learned all my offensive SWAT no huddle, limitless formations. I learned it because on defense, to be a defensive coordinator, man, you got to put in some serious work because
That's true.
You're breaking out of the huddle and you don't know what they're calling, and you got to adjust, and it's rapid decision making.
That is true, Coach.
What I did, Coach, it was basically I've got a no huddle on defense where we make rapid decisions, structured. We don't wing it. And my SWAT no huddle defense is based on the language, but basically it's you come out, like for example, in empty back and you're spreading it out. We can adjust to you, but I caution my players about adjusting. We line up in accordance to what you're doing, but you are not going to dictate to us. I tell my defense, you're not going to.
Oh, I love it.
You're not going to dictate to us how we play.
I love it. I love it. Now I have another question for you. Well, basically two questions. Now, you kind of do like I do with my key system. You have to mentally get the players ready. And a lot of times, you know, when I first started teaching in 1971 and into the NFL and at the lower levels, I also had to get the players ready within 24 hours. So mentally, as I say it now, within 24 hours of hearing the system. So tell me now what you do mentally for them.
Oh man, Coach, you just hit the core of football.
Okay.
You hit the core of what I call amateur football, where you this isn't the NFL where I coach. Mentally, it starts in the off season. It's a 365, 24/7 process because here's what I tell them. We're going to go in the weight room. We're going to run sprints. Every rep that you do is another building block, even if it's this much, but it's another building block because I believe mind, body, and soul strength are all connected. Then during the season, I tell people, listen, you got families, you got jobs, you got school. You can't think of football 24/7, but here's how I train them. I got a system in place that while you're here, give me 90 minutes. Give me 90 minutes of practice. We speed things up. You give me 90 minutes in the weight room. Film session. When it's time to work, 5th degree focus, Coach, is how we build mental strength. And then I tell them, you got to go out to your world. You're going to get temptations. You're going to get blessings. You're going to have to deal with your world. And I've always said to them, and I say this with all love and respect, the other team don't scare me as much as your world.
That's right.
Your world is going to tempt you to unravel everything you built. So here's what I try to do. If we're good coaches, we're going to build not only character, but conscientiousness to say, I'm not going to throw away all that work. So that mental strength, that mental progress, intellectually learn the system. Here's what I've learned. I learned as coaching law enforcement. When you challenge young people, when you challenge high school, college age people and say, you guys, can get strong enough and smart enough to do anything in this world, including play football. If you want to raise their football IQ, it starts with believing in them. You believe in them as a coach. Don't be afraid of their learning. They'll learn. It doesn't matter what their grades were in high school. I tell them all, love you all. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. I am not going to limit you because I'm afraid of your IQ. You can't fear teaching and learning, Coach. That's what I believe.
I agree. And I'm loving this. Now, you heard a little bit from the gentleman that's on with and helps me about our share program. Now, what do you think about that?
Coach, that's a brilliant idea. First of all, I mean this sincerely, not because you're a dear friend of mine. And I'm not just saying this, but to everybody who's listening, there is no greater reward in football than seeing a young person move to the next level. Let me say that again. Nothing is more uplifting in my life than seeing a young man, and when I was teaching college, it could be law enforcement, it could be football, getting them to the next level. That's what we're here for, Coach. I call it, it's part of our divine calling. Serve and protect. Serve and protect. We are here. Sure, we want a win-loss record. We want to win championship rings, but we're here to get people to the next level. And what you're doing is near and dear to my heart because out of all the wonderful things that have happened in my football career, my greatest blessing is the number 212. 212 of our players have been recruited by somebody at the next level. And that, Coach, is it's an indication of if you're a young person and you believe with all your heart and you commit, fifth degree commitment, getting a person to the next level can be done, but they need your service.
That's right.
I did most of all this before the internet. VHS tapes, building a resume, stats. Here's what we didn't know. We didn't know what other people, their competitors, what kind of stats did they have? So state by state, county by county, where do you rank? What you're doing is a great, great service, Coach. Get these kids to buy into stats. You see, I call myself a stat hog. Your stats, Coach, I've always told people, you're not above the team, but if you're a quarterback, a running back, a linebacker, a DB, I don't care what you are. The more stats you pile up, that's how the team wins, and I call it personal best from the weight room. You got to be obsessed with achieving personal best. I don't care if it's in a bench press or squat. I don't care if it's passing or tackling in a game. You got to be obsessed with personal best because those personal bests do two things. You add up personal best, those stats, and it gives you a chance to build up your resume to compete nationwide. But more importantly, that's how your team best is added up. You're doing a great service, Coach. I highly recommend this. Every coach, new, old, doesn't matter, veteran, rookie, commit yourself to the advancement of your players to the next level. And your service is the perfect vehicle for that.
Now, I have one more thing for you. I have a product that I take that gives me the energy because as I put out there and let players and coaches know, I have COPD. And I retired from the NFL because of it. I couldn't get from one sideline to the other. And last year I coached my 56th year. Last year.
Incredible. 56 years.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
So, thank you, Coach. So what happened was I was told to contact this doctor here in Victorville, where I live, Victorville, California, and he came up with the Arginex. The Arginex, and this is the product. This gives you energy for players, coaches, and it works on your energy for your heart and your vitamin D, everything that you need to basically to fight the virus and plus to your workouts. And I'm pretty sure you can see this. And yes. And I would like to get with you later on to hopefully have some of your players and coaches look into this, and also for yourself.
Coach, I'm in a 50-year workout streak in progress. I'm 62 years old. I still work out every day of my life. Send me the information. Send me a sample. I'll be glad to sample it up. And Coach, I'll give you my honest opinion.
All right, that's great. And I just want to let you know that I love having you on my show. I love it, man. And I wish that we could do this longer. And I'm looking forward to being on your show also.
Yeah,
and,
open invitation, Coach.
Talk a little bit about your show before you go.
Blunt Talk Podcast. We started 4 years ago. My wife and I. My first episode was 7 listeners. Now we're up to over 70,000 downloads. And here's what I do. The mission statement of our podcast is to lift. We want to lift people with good inspirational news only. And I try to teach real life lessons from my football career, my strength training career, my police career. I try to share with the world everything I've learned and what's worked for players. And we've had phenomenal guests like yourself. And here's what we do. When you tune in, it's free. It's archived. If you want to listen to something that'll just charge you up, whether it's our guests or the message, that's what we try to do. My mission is I just want you to leave that podcast super energized and say, there is absolutely nothing in this world that's going to stop me.
And I did. And I want folks to know that was my breakout.
Awesome.
After all the years of coaching, being on your show was, I just can't begin to tell you what it did for me. And that was my breakout because I had so many coaches calling, what are you talking about a key system? What do you mean you don't read the quarterback? What do you mean one-leg coverages? What do you mean into extended neutral zone? So, and that happened from breaking out on your show. And I want to
thank you.
I am humbled. I love you. Stay healthy. Stay safe. And
thank you
for being on the show.
Coach, love you too. And you were a phenomenal guest that warms my heart because the world needs to hear your message, Coach. 56 years of coaching, the world needs to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.